O Lord, give me the tongue of the learned, that I might know what I ought to say. And if there be any word good for the use of edifying, give it, that thou hast minister grace unto the hearers. Grant that I may speak boldly. I open my mouth wide, O Lord, thou fill it. Amen. Okay, today is the anniversary the anniversary of the story of the four chaplains, or eternal chaplains. They're a witness as to what God calls us to do sometimes. So I'm going to give you the story of the four chaplains. It was on the evening of February 2nd, 1943, and the USAT Dorchester was crowded to capacity, carrying 902 servicemen, merchant seamen, and civilian workers. Once a luxury coastliner, the 5,649-ton vessel had been converted into the Army transport ship. The Dorchester was one of three ships in the SG-19 convoy, was moving steadily across the icy waters from Newfoundland towards the American base in Greenland. SG-19 was escorted by Coast Guard cutter Tampa, Escanaba, and Comanche. Hans J. Danielson, the ship's captain, was concerned and cautious. Earlier, the Tampa had detected a submarine with its sonar. Danielson knew he was in dangerous waters even before got the alarming information that the German U-boat was constantly prowling the vital sea lanes, and several ships had already been blasted and sunk. USAT Dorchester, leaving St. John's Harbor on the way to Greenland in the fall of 1942. The Dorchester was now only 150 miles from its destination, but the captain ordered the men sleep in their clothing and keep their life jackets on. Many soldiers slept deep in the ship's hold, disregarding the order because of the engine's heat. Others ignored it because their life jackets were uncomfortable. On February 3rd at 12:55 a.m., a periscope broke the chilly Atlantic waters through the crosshairs. An officer aboard the German submarine U-223 spotted the Dorchester. The U-223 approached the convoy on the surface, and after identifying and targeting the ship, he gave orders to fire the torpedoes. A fan of three were fired. The one that hit was decisive and deadly strike the starboard side, amidship, and far below the waterline. Captain Danielson alerted the Dorchester was taking water rapidly and sinking, gave the order to abandon ship. In less than 20 minutes, the Dorchester would slip beneath the Atlantic icy waters. Tragically, the hit had knocked the power radio contact with the three escort ships. The Coast Guard carrier's Comanche, however, saw the flash and the explosion. It responded and rescued 97 survivors. The CGC Escanaba, circling the Dorchester, rescued an additional 132 survivors. The third cutter, the CGC Tampa, continued on escorting the remaining two ships. Aboard the Dorchester, panic and chaos had set in. The blast had killed scores of men, and many more were seriously wounded. Others, stunned by the explosion, were going in the darkness. Those sleeping without clothes rushed topside, where they were confronted first by a blast of icy Arctic air and then by the knowledge that death awaited. Men jumped from the ship into lifeboats, overcrowded them to the point of capsizing. According to eyewitnesses, other rafts tossed in the Atlantic drifted away before soldiers could get in them. Through the pandemonium, according to those present, 4 Army chaplains brought hope in despair and light in darkness. Those chaplains were Lieutenant George L. Fox, a Methodist minister, Lieutenant Alexander D. Good, a Jewish rabbi, Lieutenant John P. Washington, a Roman Catholic priest, and Lieutenant Clark V. Poling, a Dutch Reformed priest. Quickly and quietly, the 4 chaplains spread out among the soldiers. There they tried to calm the frightened, tend to the wound, and guide the disoriented towards safety. Witnesses of the terrible night remembered hearing the 4 men offer prayers for the dying and encouraging those who wanted to live. He says, Wyatt R. Fox, according to it was the son of the Reverend Fox. One witness, Private William B. Bedmer, found himself floating in oil-smeared water surrounded by dead bodies and debris. I could hear men crying, pleading, praying. Bednar recalls, I could also hear the chaplains preaching courage. Their voices were the only thing that kept me going. Another sailor, Petty Officer John J. Mahoney, tried to re-enter his cabin, but Rabbi Good stopped him. Mahoney, concerned about the cold Arctic air, explained that he'd forgotten his gloves. Never mind, Good responded. I have 2 pair. The rabbi then gave the petty officer his own gloves. In retrospect, Mahoney realized that the Rabbi Good was not conveniently carrying 2 pairs of gloves, and that the rabbi had decided not to leave the Dorchester. By this time, most of the men were topside, and the chaplains opened a storage locker and began distributing life jackets. It was then that the engineer, Grady Clark, witnessed an astonishing sight. When there were no more life jackets in the storage room, the chaplains removed theirs and gave them up to 4 frightened young men. It was the finest thing I had seen or hoped to see this side of heaven, said John Ladd, another survivor who saw the chaplain's selfless act. Ladd's response is understandable. The altruistic action of the 4 chaplains constituted one of the purest spiritual and ethical acts a person can make. When giving their life jackets, Rabbi Good did not call out for a Jew. Father Washington did not call out for a Catholic, nor did the Reverends Fox and Poland call out for a Protestant. They simply gave their life jackets to the next man in line. As the ship went down, survivors in the nearby rafts could see the 4 chaplains. Arms linked and braced against the slanted deck, their voices could also be heard offering prayers. Of the 902 men aboard the USAT Dorchester, 672 died, leaving 230 survivors. When the news reached American shores, the nation was stunned by the magnitude of the tragedy and the heroic conduct of the 4 chaplains. Valor is a gift, Carl Sandburg once said. Those having it never know for sure whether they have it until the test comes. That night, Reverend Fox, Rabbi Good, Reverend Poling, and Father Washington passed life's ultimate test. In doing so, they became an enduring example of extraordinary faith, courage, and selflessness. So we as Christians may be called to be martyrs someday, but we can start out by simply saying hi and bringing a little bright bit of light to someone's day. Jesus showed that no act of kindness was too small, like giving a simple pair of gloves or a self-sacrifice to save others, either spiritually or physically, like the praying over the fallen or giving encouragement for the chance of surviving or saving a life or a soul to find God before it's too late. Amen.